There's unquestionably been significant progress on the pitch at Swindon Town Football Club over the last 12 months. We've gone from arguably the football club's darkest hour, and we're all still here, as is our Australian owner, Clem Morfuni, his vision, his commitment, and his enthusiasm for the club. Not just a calendar year, but a full English football season under Clem's belt to boot. One that came tantalisingly close to seemingly unlikely promotion to League One, but was followed by an unsettled close season with comings and goings on all fronts. There's unquestionably been the significant progress off the pitch that I mentioned, most notably on reducing Town's large debt and list of creditors, a remodelling of Swindon Town Football Club as a going concern both on and off the pitch, and moving closer to purchasing the county ground in a joint venture with the supporters. But there are some parties that continue to whisper that even more could and should be done by our avuncular Aussie and his supporting cast. So as fans, what exactly do we want from our owners? Ambition? Is it realism? Is it connection? Is it speculative investment? Well, Clem's promised transparency, and his appearance on tonight's show is another indication of this. And Clem's promised he's not shying away from any of your questions, so now's your chance to find out exactly what it is you want from him. I'm pleased to say you've sent loads of questions in, and time permitting, we'll be asking them all. And joining Clem to help provide the answers to all of your queries is Swindon Town CEO Rob Angus, himself celebrating his maiden year at the helm of our football club. Guys, hopefully we're in for an absolute treat. But first and foremost, Rob, Clem, how are you both?
Morning or afternoon or night of what it is over there. I'm all right. I'm in Brisbane at the moment. It's 6 a.m. So, I feel all right. Feel good. Busy at work.
That's good to hear. And Rob, how are you, Rob? Whereabouts are we finding you, Rob?
I'm away at the moment with the family, and we're in the Netherlands at the moment, so I'm just an hour ahead of you guys.
Oh, bless you. Well, thank you ever so much for joining us, both of you. As I say, we've got a packed show, and I don't want to delay you too much because I appreciate your Clem. You're right at the start of a very, very busy business day, and obviously, Rob, you're on holiday with the family, so we won't want to keep you too late. But we've had a good dose of questions, and I know that Clem, in particular, you'll be quite keen to expand on the first question that we've had from Darren Jackson via Twitter. So, Clem, Darren said last year the club were out on the road pushing season tickets, meeting fans and businesses, etc. What is the ambitions for the 6K target? I understand that we've got a ticket to Oz that's been announced, Clem. Do you want to maybe explain that as part of what the ambition is?
Obviously, look, we're trying to push season tickets to 6,000. We had an idea to bring 2 supporters to Sydney, to my hometown. So, and look, it's funded from my business. Obviously, I travel quite a bit. I've got businesses around the world. So, we're pushing 2 lucky supporters to come down to Sydney, have a look, flights, accommodation paid for. I'd bring them around, show them my hometown, the Opera House, the Harbour Bridge, Bondi Beach, and I'd take them out for dinner and a tour. So, and enjoy Sydney and see what Australia's all about and where I come from and what Aussies are really like in their hometown.
So is it literally as simple as buy a season ticket, Clem, and someone's going to be picked at random, or is there anything else people need to do? Is there any way that people can increase their chances?
Buy more season tickets, I believe. As long as they could get into the country, then they need to be able to get into the country, obviously. So a visa and a valid passport that can get you into Australia, and you're in. That's it. Simple as that.
No talking about the cricket or anything along those lines, though. By the sound, we'll have to get.
We depending on when they come here, I think it's between March or to May or something, or June. Obviously, we're going into winter. Then we'll probably have our rugby league. I think football will still be on. I think cricket will probably be over by then. But it's still March till June. I think it's still quite warm. In March, we still get 30 degrees, 32 to 35 degrees. Obviously, May, June, you get probably a lot less. Our winter's a lot more milder than England. You won't be getting 2 or 3 degrees. You'll probably get 13, 14, 15 degrees, 16 in winter. But depending on when they want to come down, that's all. But I think the hardest thing is the trip, the flight. The flight's 24-hour flight, which is quite hard on your body.
Yeah, well,
you get used to it after a while.
You got quite a prize waiting for you at the end of it. I'm sure that whoever it is, whoever the lucky individual is that wins it, will certainly be able to tolerate a 24-hour flight with lots of complimentary drinks and so on and such. So I'm right in understanding, Clem, if you're a family, let's say, and you've got 4 or 5 tickets, that won't count as a single entry. That will count as 4 or 5 entries, basically.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Okay. The benefits of having kids, eh?
Absolutely. You've got to have some benefits out there.
Well, yeah, it's only just. So I don't know who wants to answer the next one. Rob, maybe you might like to have a look at this one. So it's kind of related, but it's from John via Twitter. John saying, do the club think that you will hit the 6,000 season ticket mark? And also, how long before fans will be able to use their bank cards to pay again?
Yeah, no, I can take that one. So I think we're just under 5,000 at the moment. So we do think it's viable to hit the 6,000. Obviously, still got time to get your season tickets. Hopefully, this great prize that Clem's put out will help sort of push those people who are thinking about it over the line. Obviously, we've seen Grimsby. I think they've gone over 5,000, and Stockport as well, over 5,500. I think so. Hopefully, we can show to our fan base, and to other clubs out there, we can get to 6,000. Which would be great for the club and a great statement for the support of the club and how we're growing under Clem. And in terms of card payments, yeah, you can pay by card now. It's been quite a long road, obviously, with the history of the club, but we managed to find a card acquirer who would take the club on. So you can pay via card in the shop or over the phone now, as well as paying online or in cash in the shop. So card payments are available now.
That's wonderful news, Rob. Is that just sort of plainly and simply the repairing of the club's credit rating and sort of companies willing to sort of trust the club again, do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. It's taken a while, Clem's support and getting the club in a stronger financial footing. That's taken a while for the credit card companies to recognise that. But you can do that now. So it's a great opportunity, as I say. You can pay for card in the shop, you can pay by card over the phone, you can pay online, obviously by the financing option. Can't do card online, but you can do that by the financing option. But that card ability hopefully will help, along with this prize, to get us over 6,000.
You know what, gentlemen? I mean, without sort of casting any aspersions here or wishing to blow sunshine up your backsides, obviously big financial firms, credit card firms, financial institutions will not be giving their credit away easily, particularly in the current climate. So I think we should probably make a little bit more of the fact that, it's a strong indicator, isn't it, of the work that you've done behind the scenes, repairing the finances, that a firm are willing to provide those sort of facilities to you.
Yeah, I think that's right, Hannah. I think we've come a long way in the year. There's obviously still more work to do. There's a lot of damage to repair. It took a while, but we have found a card acquirer that we can work with.
Oh,
But yeah, it's testament all the work that really Clem's putting in, the rest of the teams there, and all the support from our supporters. We couldn't do it without all of the people waived their season tickets last year, who bought their season tickets again. That makes a massive difference.
Well, congrats, guys. Like I said, I mean, I think that's a massive step, and certainly something that I think will get tongues wagging moving forward. Got a question from Ashley via Twitter, and Ashley asks, or Ashley rather states, "Happy anniversary, gentlemen. How on track are we versus your ambitions and plans that you set when taking over, Clem?"
Look, we are on track. Obviously, there's still a lot to do, so which we're trying to do now. There was a few surprises that I didn't know about, but look, the business side of the club didn't really worry me. Look, I knew there was going to be some skeletons in there, but there was probably a bit more skeletons than I thought. But yeah, well, look, the whole team's working hard. There's always some curlies in there, and we're just pushing hard. Obviously, our were a bit disappointed last year. We never got promoted. That was a bit devastating for me, and for the town and everybody. But look, we did a great result, and we're still pushing, and cleaning up a few things. Obviously, we're trying to sort out the ground and by the ground with the supporter groups, which we're doing now. And still there's a few bits and pieces that we're trying to clean up from the legacy that we inherited. But the town, the club's going well. We did the shop. We've done some work on the academy pitches. We did work on the actual pitch. The team's going quite well. We've had some new staff in there. And people come and go, like I said, but no one's bigger than the club, and we're pushing hard and want to make sure that the club's sustainable for the future. And we're going well.
Well, so Clem, Steve Jones is asking, what do Clem and Rob respectively feel that they could do better? So the question's about low-hanging fruit. Is there anything that you feel that you guys individually could do better?
Me as a person, or the club as a person?
I think it's open for you to interpret as you feel appropriate, Clem.
You could always do better, but it's quite. What people say, it's like football, as you say, oh, gee, you could have done better. But mate, when you're out there on the pitch, it's probably a bit different. It's difficult. You probably do your best that you can at the time. I always keep striving to do better, but that's me as an individual. But yeah, what could I do better? I'll probably do better interviews. How's that?
Well, do you know what?
I don't really like doing interviews, but
do you know?
I can run the business side, so I've been doing interviews a bit difficult for me.
Yeah, but do you know what, Clem? I think, you've been consistent with that. You've always been very open about the fact it's not something that you're comfortable with and natural with. But,
the thing is, with my business, I just do the business. I don't really do an interview. I don't really do interviews in my business, which is understandable. Everything else is quite running the business, the money in, money out is quite, for me, is not difficult. And like us refurbing the shop was easy. We could, and our staff did a really great job on it, and we all pushed hard to get what we did. But doing the interviews is probably the harder thing for me.
Well, I think, Clem.
Better.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Clem, I think that's a great answer, Clem, to be fair, because I think that as football fans, we're used to seeing a lot of owners of football clubs that are very, very good self-publicists. And we've certainly, as a football club in the past, without mentioning names, there are people that have run our football club that were actually very good at promoting themselves and using the club as a way to promote the things that they were doing in their own life or in their business life. You're a different kind of beast. You've just said yourself, you run a business. That's always been your focus. I don't think there's any shame in admitting that. Certainly, comms and PR is not necessarily your strong suit. I mean, speaking as a fan, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd much rather have an owner of my club that is good at getting down to business than he is talking about what a great person he is and how much he's achieved.
True.
How about you, Rob? Is there anything that you feel? I mean, it's obviously you've made a transition from being you've been a supporter, then you've been part of the trust, and now obviously you're CEO of the football club. Is there anything that you feel that you could do better personally?
Yeah, definitely. And as Clem says, we're always looking to make improvements, and it's been a big transition for me. From working at Nation for being, working at Nationwide from being in the trust to supporting Clem and trying to run the club with him is a big transition. Lots of learning along the way, lots of improvements that we can make. I think we've got a small but dedicated team. But at times when we face peak demand, it's a struggle to meet the customer service demands that our fans rightly have. So there's definitely things that we can look to do and improve, and we're always looking to make those improvements, and we'll continue to do that. But it takes a bit of time and longer than sometimes we would like. But yeah, for sure, there's always things we can improve on, mate, and we'll continue to try to do that.
Clem, there's a question for you from Jack. Jack on Twitter has said, Clem, what's been your biggest achievement or your favourite Swindon Town moment to date?
My biggest achievement, I think taking over the club has been a great achievement. I think having people who have supported me, obviously, look, it's been a long journey. I've been there for 8 years in Swindon in the background, from shirt sponsor to vice chairman to minority shareholder. I think taking over has been a great achievement, and just seeing where it was a year ago to where it is today it's been a great achievement. But I couldn't have done that without the support of the supporters, the staff, and everybody there, from Zav to Rob to everybody, from Greg to all the staff there that have been brilliant for us. So, yeah, I think taking over the club's probably been the biggest achievement. And look, I've had some really great moments there, even like small moments that with the supporters. I like hanging around the supporters and playing football with them, and I was just talking stuff with them. I probably enjoy that quite openly. I think that I enjoy that.
Well, you enjoyed Scunthorpe, Clem. That was obvious.
I enjoyed Scunthorpe. I didn't enjoy when we were losing 1-0, but I enjoyed when we were winning 3-1 and I was patting me on my board head. So that was quite enjoyable. That was quite enjoyable. But I thought, because I had my manager from Axis with me, and he was a bit shocked at what was happening. So,
was that his first taste of UK football fandom?
No, well, he's English anyway. He understands football, but he's never seen it like that, where the chairman actually sits with his fans and everyone's patting me on the head.
Well, so Clem, Nick on Twitter has said, Clem, this is our first season of Moneyball. Are you excited or nervous about the project, given the difference to our approach that we had under Ben Chorley?
No, I'm excited. I think the Moneyball system is quite exciting. It's like, I understand numbers. I understand, which is quite a very good thing how they do it. A lot of clubs like Brentford, Brighton do it, and that's why they're in the Premier League. Do that now. They're quite smart. These clubs need to be sustainable, and for that, I think it's a very good option for us. I think, and probably gives us a bit of an edge in the league. So yeah,
and they're good comparison. I mean, Rob, you'll probably have a view on this as well. I mean, both Brighton and Brentford are really good models for us to. I mean, you'll remember, Rob, sort of playoff disappointments against both those clubs, where we pretty much went toe to toe with those clubs. With Brighton, when they had their troubles, they were at the Withdean, and obviously we've gone on to see what they've built, and similarly with Brentford as well. You know, we've been toe to toe with Brentford and beaten them handsomely at Griffin Park. So it's that I don't feel that that's necessarily an unfair kind of model or comparison to make. What's your view?
Well, absolutely, Hannes. You know, I can remember that playoff semi-final and Flinty scoring that goal in extra time and stuff like that. So, and that doesn't seem that long ago with Brentford in particular, and Brighton equally have been, down and out, and then built themselves back up. So, but I think Clem's hit the nail on the head. You want a sustainable football club. A lot of that is about maximising revenue off the pitch, which we try and do, and all the support from the supporters is really important, and the team that we have behind the scenes trying to make sure that we're using the asset that we have in terms of the county ground day in, day out. But if we can supplement that with a model similar to Brighton and Brentford, where we bring in, young talent, develop it, sell it on, go again, and each time you're bringing in better and, trading up in terms of your players, and then I think that's the right model to go down. It enables a sustainable football club and should enable us to grow. And I don't think, Brentford or Brighton are models that are too far out of reach for us, given the history of those two clubs. And as you say, not that long ago that we were fighting with Brentford to get out of League One.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, you've got other models as well where they're a little bit further, sort of closer to us in the journey as well. I guess names like Peterborough, MK Dons, Forest Green to an extent. They're running sort of similar models and enjoying sort of certainly levels of success that we would be aspiring to in the shorter term, I'm guessing.
Definitely. I think Peterborough is a good one. As well as you said, that we can look at. Look, we're starting this model, so it might take us a wee bit of time, but I'm very excited about it. I think it's exactly the right way to go, and I think it ensures that we grow the football club in a sustainable way, which is what we want, really.
Charlie on Twitter has asked this, Clem. Do you feel happy with the squad as it is, or are there any holes that you personally would like to see filled?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the squad, but it's not my decision. I'm the one that puts the money in. At the end of the day, I think Scott Lindsay's quite happy with the squad. I think he's very happy with the squad. So I'm happy with it. So he just needs to make sure he's happy with it. I think he is. So I'm happy with it.
And Rory has followed that up by asking, are there any players that you're really disappointed to have missed out on this summer, either re-signing or signing of new players that you would be in a position to talk about?
No, because I don't really pick the players, so it's not up to me. I'm at the end of the day, Endo and Scott are the ones that have picked the players, and it's their job to pick the players. So I don't pick the players. They just tell me these are the players we're going to get. So fair enough. These are the budgets, and we can go from there.
Let's not have a dog. Let's not have a dog and. Oh no, I've got it all wrong. Let's not have a tail and wag ourselves. I've forgotten what the phrase is, but I'm making myself and it sound like a total buffoon. So Victoria's asking, Clem, what's the hardest thing about running a club from a distance, as indeed you are?
I think the time zones, but like the time zones is all right because I've got a business in England and I've got a business in New York. So for me, running the business was not an issue. I like Rob. Obviously, Rob can vouch for that because I'm talking to Rob and the CFO all the time, making sure that we're doing this and doing that. We go through teams meetings and we talk, and obviously I come over there quite a bit and we go through it all. So I don't have any issues running the business. Look, obviously I like to be there a lot more, but obviously I can't be, and because I've got businesses here in Australia as well. So for that, I don't have any issues running the club. I didn't realise it does take a lot out of you. Obviously, when you've got a day job, so to speak. So yeah, I'm on it all the time. So
yeah. So Jamie Day, not the Jamie Day, but Jamie Day. Well, it might be the Jamie Day. Actually, I don't think it is though. Via Twitter has said, any plans for splitting the Stratton Bank in half between home and away supporters? Given that Jamie thinks a lot of the fan base do like the Stratton Bank being a former home end of the stadium. I don't know. That's probably one for you, Rob.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good thought from Jamie. I think one of the things we need to consider and look at as we buy the stadium and look at the development that we do off the back of that, I think it's an important thing for us to consider. As it stands at the moment, without the roof on the Stratton Bank, you have to give a certain amount of covered seating to away fans, which means you have to sort of give that corner in the Arkles. But I think as we look at development for the stadium, we look at putting a roof on the Stratton Bank, it does throw up options for us. And I can remember, the Stratton Bank being split and standing on the bank watching the town with the other side being the away supporters. So it's got something we've got to look at. We've got to assess as we do the feasibility studies. We've got to look at the segregation requirements now and stuff like that as well. But definitely one for us to consider and think about.
Well, John Saunders has followed that up with another question about the bank, Rob. He's asking, will the bank be open for town fans for large parts of the season due to smaller away followings at the county ground?
Look, if we can get the demand from town fans, then we'll be happy to open it. It does cost us quite a bit of money to open it in terms of stewarding and security and all the rest of it. But if we get the demand, from the home fan base, then we can look to open it. If we don't get the demand, then it's difficult because of those costs. And equally, it might take numbers of fans away from the town end or Don Rogers, where some of the noise in the atmosphere is, and that might dilute things a bit. But if the demand is there, we'll definitely open it.
Nat is asking, what's the latest on the stadium purchase, gentlemen?
Rob,
do you want me to take that, Clem? Yeah. So we're still very much in active discussions with the council. It's all going well, and obviously the Supporters Trust as well, and the various supporters groups. It's very much in getting the legals agreed and finalised. So it's on track. These things take a bit of time, but we're on track, and we hope that we'll get there later this year.
So Bob Clark has asked via Twitter, what is happening with the late Nigel Eadie money that was left to STFC in trust? I understand some of it has been given to the Community Foundation. Can you shed any light? Is there any sort of positive conversations going on with the Eadie funds in terms of the late Nigel Eadie sort of helping the club sort of progress either with the stadium or otherwise?
Yeah, there's some really positive discussions going on with the Nigel Eadie trustees. I mean, Nigel has left an amazing legacy for the football club, which was fantastic, bless him. And I think the Eadie trustees have done a great job of ensuring that money is spent in the right way and hasn't already gone, if that makes sense, and disappeared somewhere. Yeah. So we're in positive discussions with the trustees there and continue to be. So hopefully, that legacy can be continue to be put to good use, as well as obviously the support that is given to the Community Foundation.
Clem, this one's definitely for you. This is from Mark via Twitter. He says, Clem, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being bloody awful and 10 being hunky-dory, just how bad a mess did you discover upon taking over the club?
I'd say 1. Yeah, when we...
I don't know why I'm laughing. I really don't know why I'm laughing. I shouldn't be laughing.
I can laugh about it now because it was a mess. I went to the accounts girl and I said, how much money we got in the bank? She goes, £10. And I said, what are the creditors? And she gave me a whole list of all these creditors. And then we worked out the first thing, like the wages hadn't been paid for 2 months, the HMRC hadn't been paid, council hadn't been paid, supplies hadn't been paid for 2 to 3 years. It was a mess. It was the only things that came out of the woodwork, and there was a lot of things that did come out of the woodwork, which weren't surprising. But yeah, we did clean it up. But it was a mess. I'll tell you that now. The pitch was a mess. Everything was a mess. So
yeah.
But, just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, well, it certainly. I mean, it gives us an idea because I think it's kind of very easy. I mean, Rob, again, talking to you as a fan here, Rob. You'll recall sort of chilly nights standing in an open terrace at Brentford where we were facing oblivion before the Fitton consortium took over, and it's amazing how quick people forgot just how dire that night was, where we were literally expecting the next day to sort of open up newspapers and see that our club had gone. So I do think it's kind of right and proper that we try and keep the scale of that mess sort of front and centre, even no matter how sort of further down the line we get.
Totally, Alice. And I think the other thing outside of it is you've got 10 years or so of a lack of investment in the infrastructure of the stadium, the training ground, etc., which we're dealing with now. Things break, need fixing. Another bill comes, Clem needs to sort of foot, and we need to find money to deal with. That's sort of some of the longer lasting legacy issues. Is that lack of investment over a number of years, which starts to pay. If you don't sort of upgrade and improve and maintain your assets.
Yeah.
That's going to be with us for a while. We're making improvements, as Clem said earlier, with the pitch and the training ground and stuff like that. But there's more to be done. Hopefully, buying the ground will help us sort of drive that forward at a quicker pace with the development plans that will follow as well.
Clem, Mark on Twitter has got this question for you. He says, Clem, I'm just going to be frank. There are some colourful characters hanging around the club. Can you just reassure the Swindon Town fan base our club is not at risk of being dragged through the mud once again due to these people's involvement?
I can guarantee no one's going to drag anyone through the mud at the end of the day. So look, what people have done in the past is what they've done, but the people that we've got there are good people. Like, I won't mention. I can mention names, or you don't want to mention names. I don't know if they want to mention names.
Well, he's not mentioned names, Clem, but I think most Swindon fans are.
Listen, and I'll tell you now, without him, I would never been here. He's the one that got me to Swindon, and I thank him, and I keep thanking him. And he's been brilliant for me, and he does a lot of good things for the club that people don't recognise. And same with the other guy, does a lot of good things in the background with the players, with the S&C. And these people, listen, everyone's got a past. And like I keep saying to people, no one's perfect. And I'm just looking at the club at the end of the day. Look, I've got 800-900 people, I'm sure, that I employ around the world. I'm sure I've got colourful characters in there as well. But I look at what they do now, not what they've done in the past. All right. And like I say to people aren't perfect. And if they can learn from their mistakes, then it's a different story. But he's done an amazing job for me, and I thank him. And I always said to him, look, you helped me get the club, and I thank him for that. And that's the loyalty I am. And he does so many good things. He never takes a penny out of the club. He's like an ambassador. He works really hard behind the scenes for the club and brings extra revenue for the club. So that's what people don't see. They only look at what's happened 20 years ago. Like, I get a bit annoyed that people keep dragging people up, what they've done in the past, but they don't look at what they've done in the future and how well they've done and what good work they've done.
Yeah, understood. Well, similarly, talking about people's involvement, G is asking, what is Michael Standing's role at Swindon Town, Clem? Is it current or is it lapsed? Where do we stand with Michael Standing and Swindon Town Football Club?
Michael Standing's got nothing to do with Swindon Town Football Club. Michael Standing's got a court case with the other party, so Michael Standing's got nothing to do with Swindon.
Lovely job. All right. Well, so Clem, here's a question for you. It breaks my heart, Clem, seeing the stick that anonymous keyboard warriors and conspiracy theorists inflict on people. I've noticed that you've not escaped that of late. Does it bother you? And do you have any regrets about buying Swindon Town? Indeed, is there anything you would like to say to these people?
No, I don't have any regrets from buying Swindon Town. I'm actually happy that I did buy Swindon Town. It's great for me, and it's a personal thing that I quite enjoy. Do I worry about what people write in social media? Not really, because I don't have any social media. And like I've said, we've got an advisory board once a month that people go to their supporter groups, and if they've got an issue with the club, please go through them. And like I've said to the supporter groups and in the advisory board, if anyone's got a problem, come to the club. I'll gladly sit down with you if you've got an issue. I haven't got a problem. I'll take it on the chin. If I do something wrong, I'll take it on the chin. But I'll tell you now, if I don't agree with it, I'll tell you. I'll throw one back at you. So I'm not going to be shy. Trust me, I'm not shy. And look, I don't put up with BS. And look, I had a fan. I won't mention his name. Had a crack at me at Weymouth a year ago, and I didn't know. I said, listen, let me have a look at it. I understand. And I just got into the seat. And we sorted it out, and he came and saw me. He said he wouldn't come back unless he got his refund. And he got his refund, and he's back. So, and I say to him, look, there's no point whinging. If you've got a problem, come and talk to me, or talk to our staff. Don't whinge on the keyboard. Come, let's do something about it and make the club better. There's no point whinging. Whinging don't get anywhere.
Here. Completely agree. Glass half full and all that.
Oh, that's my stance on the whole thing.
Rob, there's a question for you here. It says, Rob, the new club shop looks great. However, stock range is poor. Communication has not been great, and it appears that the shop is having to close to process orders. Are you recruiting any more staff, as it looks like it's needed?
Yeah, look, we have got some change in staff going through and looking to make improvements for those things that we want to do. We've obviously had, a large amount of demand for the new shirts, which is great to see. Those bits of demand make it difficult to maintain service levels with a small team, and it's hard to increase that in sort of short terms and keep things at a sustainable level going forwards. But we're doing the best we can. The team are working really, really hard. We're making some changes in that area as well, which hopefully will make some improvements going forward. And we know there's more to do there. But, bear with us a little bit. We've been hit a little bit with some of the supply chain issues that other clubs have done. But we'll continue to listen to feedback and try and make improvements.
It's an interesting one, Rob, isn't it? You very graciously came on our show on Saturday before the Cardiff game. And I think news had just broken about some of the problems that Stockport fans were encountering, where they're in a hell of a lot worse state than us. And it seems like they're not the only club that are affected either. So it's fair to say that it's not just an issue for Swindon Town. This is it. It looks like a kind of league wide issue for some clubs and their manufacturers.
Yeah, no, I think it is, and it's trying to sort of work out, the amount of shirts you should order, when you get them by, making sure that you're picking the right sort of number, so you're not over ordering, having loads of kit left that you can't sell, but equally not selling out. Getting that balance is quite difficult, working out when it comes in, and then obviously you've got some of the supply chain issues that a number of the suppliers have had, given issues around the globe. Because most of these shirts, whether you get them from, are made in Southeast Asia, and then you've got issues around getting them from there, laundry through shipping containers over to the UK. So it's quite a complex supply chain, and it's quite a complex sort of process. So we're learning as we go. We're trying to make improvements. Please bear with us. I think we've got pretty much all of our own shirts in now, so all of the pre-orders have been done at the moment. Everyone will get their shirts soon. We're expecting as well to have sort of home shirts in the shop ahead of the Salford game as well. And, and then we're looking to order more as well. So there's been plenty of shirts as well ahead of a next sort of drive around sort of Christmas time. I think the away shirt, looks great as well. So plenty of that in as well. So we are getting there. Apologies for any sort of poor service in between. We are trying the best we can. And we're learning and making improvements as we go.
And Rob, someone's asking about the goalkeeping shirts as well. Are those going to be going on sale anytime soon?
Yeah, they should be coming shortly from Puma. I think they're on one of the next orders that are due in. I don't know exactly off the top of my head which one they're in, but I know they're on their way.
Outstanding. And sorry, Rob, if I missed it. There is a third shirt due, isn't there? Like last year, are we talking a sort of turn of the year time, around the time of the festivities, or can you shed any light?
No, it should be early, the third shirt. It should be around, I think, around Septemberish time, I think, the third shirt. So we'll be looking to get that in ready ahead of the team using it as well. So and look, we think that's we think all three shirts are great. I think the third shirt's a great shirt. So hopefully, it will meet expectations and build it up a little bit now. But no, that should be in September.
Anything you want to tell us about the third shirt, Rob? Doing my best Mick Morgan impression.
I'll leave the guess on the colour, but we think it's a great shirt. I think it's Clem's favourite. He might correct me now, but no, I think
I don't mind the away shirt, the third shirt. So it's quite. I like it, but that's my opinion.
Right, Jamie via Twitter is asking: Is there still an ambition to get a documentary series of the club on any of the streaming platforms?
Yes, because I've talked to a couple of people in Australia about it, because obviously a lot of people in Australia are quite interested in it. Obviously, me being Australian, so that like I'd be keen on it, but if it happens, it happens. So.
Clem, here's another one. What are the minimum expectations for Swindon Town in 2022-23 as far as you're concerned?
That's a good question.
The short ones are always the good ones, aren't they?
What's my ambition? To do the best we can. How's that?
Ah.
Obviously, we want to get promoted. There's no doubt for that. We want to get promoted. We don't want to get promotion. Absolutely. Am I going to sit here and guarantee that we're going to get promoted? No, that's suicide. Yeah, look, obviously promotion, one, buying the county ground, two, and hopefully maybe starting the development, maybe, if we buy the ground this season. So, yeah. That's my ambition.
So, if you could make one promise to Swindon Town supporters, Clem, what would it be?
I think I promise every day. One promise.
Clem, we're football fans, mate. We'll take. You know that.
I promise every day. I promise that I'm giving you transparency. I promise that we'll clean up the mess. Promise that I promise that the supporters will be proud of Swindon Town. And when people say I go for Swindon, it's a club to be proud of.
Well, listen, I mean, Clem, to be totally frank, I'll take that. And the earlier comment that if I could tie that with your permission into the comment about you can be absolutely certain we're not going to see our club reputation, our club dragged through the mud. Those are two very powerful promises you've made us tonight. So, I'll take that. I don't think there's any shame in that. And now, the next one's a bit cheeky. This is a kind of combined question because they both asked it. Both Mark Bailey and Daz on Twitter have said, in a roundabout way, can we put a cheeky bid in for Tyree Simpson, please, with a decent sell-on clause for Ipswich for when he inevitably does a Scotty Twine?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll do the politician. I don't look after the football, so
Well,
I'll throw that to you. I'll pass that to someone else. I like Tyree Simpson. I think he's a great footballer. Obviously, it's not my decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's a good kid as well, Clem, isn't he? Did you have much?
He's a great kid. Yeah. I'll tell you now, when he was at the club, he was really good. He was a great kid. He's such a gentleman. And he's a good player. And he's a good person. So that's but it's not up to me. I'm not the footballer.
No, I understand. I think we're very good at trying to recruit the right kind of personalities through the door, Clem, aren't we? So I'd like to think he's on a list. He's on a list somewhere.
What other names have we got out
there? So this is from Darren Dunn via Twitter. What's the timescale for identifying a permanent training ground, Clem?
Good question. Look, we've got other things. Obviously, we've got the training ground at Beavers Brook. We did some improvements out there as well. Look, there's so many things you could do at the same time. Obviously, we want to buy the ground. There's so much to do. I haven't really got a time frame on it. Actually, I'm pushing on so many fronts at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it. Just from what you're saying there, I don't get the impression that maybe Scott Lindsay's in your ear about needing to get that facility sorted. Is he quite happy with what he's got?
There's some more improvements that we're looking at the moment. We're just trying to work out if it's viable and what we want to do. Obviously, look, we want a proper training ground. Oh, look, not a proper training ground. It is a proper training ground, but yeah, a permanent facility that we own, but we're going through that at the moment. There's so many things we're going through at the moment. So
yeah. Rob, I don't know whether this is more of a question for you, but Matt Hale on Twitter is asking, Rob, is there any reason why the squad didn't go away on a pre-season tour anywhere this year?
I think it was small, really, and again, it's probably one more for Sandro and Scott, really, but it's just with everything happening at the end, what was going on, obviously, with them and stuff, and then looking for a replacement, we sort of just found out, really, at the end. I think that's reality of things this year. Obviously, Sandro and Scott will look at that, well ahead of time for next year.
Gotcha. This is definitely for you here, Clem. Clem, Daz, characteristically for Daz, Daz wants to know, Clem, do you have a Barbie over there? And if so, what do you throw on it?
Yeah, I got a Barbie actually. What do I throw on it? I throw chicken on it. I throw steak on it. Yeah, we have a lot of barbecues in Oz, so yeah, we have a barbie. I don't throw a shrimp on the barbie.
Oh, come on! That's something you're going to have to remedy, isn't it? So
that's a fast. But
well, listen, we're going to be doing obviously Barbies are going to be a big part of what the Tom Broadbent Lounge is going to be doing. So are we next time you're over? We're going to get you on the Barbie. Are you much of a barbecue chef, Clem, or do you leave that for other people?
I am actually. The only thing I do in the kitchen is actually cook a barbecue. I cook a good barbecue. Actually, everything else I can't do.
A bit like me, just gives me an excuse to incinerate everything. Martin on Twitter, rather proud to be a Moonraker, is asking you this, Clem. As a new South Welshman, did you enjoy Origin this year?
No, it was crap. We lost. He should know that. We lost 2-1.
I think he's baiting you.
Yeah, I'm in Queensland at the moment. I'm in Brisbane at the moment, so I can't say that too loud.
And got a question here from Kevin. He's asking about the interview process and Scott Lindsay. What role did you play in that, Clem? And what was it that Scott did to impress you enough to get the top job?
Look, me and Rob and a few of the staff did a lot of interviews. And look, obviously, Scott being there originally, we just wanted to carry on the work that we'd done previous season. So yeah, no, Scott impressed me before this job came up. He was quite good as an assistant coach. He was good. I always had a good relationship with him. And obviously we didn't know that he wanted the job at the time, and then that's what happened. So. Yeah.
And this is a very diplomatic way of asking this question. I kind of respect the way that it's been put out there. So Nick on Twitter, Clem, is asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not best pleased at all, and 10 being it's time to part company. When you found out that Ben Garner wanted to leave, where did you sit on the scale?
What, when he wanted to leave?
Yeah, when you found out he was off.
What do you mean, 1 to 10? Like 1 being good, or 1?
No, one being you were volcanic, and 10 being, well, like you said, people come and go.
Look, listen, because I employ so many people, and I've employed so many people, I don't get too hung up about people coming and going. I don't. If people want to be there, they're there. If they should be there. If they don't want to be there, so be it. Don't. If you don't want to be there, I don't get too emotional about it. Trust me. I just look at it and go, all right, if you don't want to be here, I try to keep them if they're good. But if they're obviously, I was disappointed that he left, but that's his decision. And look, I wish him all the best. And wish him all the best at Charlton. So I was disappointed, but I wasn't. I don't get too emotional about people leaving.
Right. Well, just how would you feel about last sort of couple of minutes here, Clem? Would you be up for? We've had a couple of requests. I'm going to see if I can make the tech work. We're going to sort of open questions out to the floor, really. So all of those questions you've been asked were sort of sent in advance. I'm just sort of now going to put this to the listenership, which is in the many hundreds at the moment. Guys, hit a speaker request if you'd like to ask a question direct with Clem. And indeed Rob, and we'll see if we can get that sorted for you. If you send me a speaker request right now, I'll do my best to accept, and we will crack on because we've got to the end of the pre-submitted questions. We've got Matty's quite keen to come on and have a chat. Clem, let's see if I can just make the tech work. Matty, you're live with Clem, Rob, and myself. What is it you'd like to ask?
If our cast past few minutes, my mate said we want Simpson. Any truth in that?
I don't know if you caught that, Clem, but it was a question again about Tyrese Simpson. I know you were a little bit non-committal, but I mean, if all the stars aligned,
you'd have to. I can't really answer that. It's not up to me. It's up to the football people at the end of the day. It's up to Scott and Sandro to make that decision.
Right, we've got. All right, Matty, I hope that helps, mate. We did sort of tie in that earlier. I think the gist that Clem and Rob both gave us earlier was that, certainly Tyrese is a great lad. And I guess we're in the business of trying to bring great people to the football club, but ultimately he's not pulling the strings on the football side, buddy. So I hope that will that'll do you for the time being. We've got another one here from regular listener, a Swindon fan. If you want to unmute your mic, buddy, and we'll see if we can get you live with Clem and Rob.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. If the guys
good.
can't hear you, yeah, they've got you loud and clear, buddy.
So I just wanted to ask about transfers, because I know some of our recent transfers, we've been paying those like undisclosed fees. Like, do either Rob or Clem, do they know like how much money's been spent on these fees or not? Or is it just for like Scott?
I do.
yeah.
I do, but we rather not say. But I know how much we spent.
It's a considerable amount, and I think the great thing for Swindon fans is that we're in a position to make those investments, as a club again. But obviously, there's a reason we're undisclosed to keep them confidential between ourselves and the other clubs.
That seems fair enough. And we've got another one here from Pete. Peter, you're on live with Clem, Rob, and myself. If you just unmute your mic, Pete, and then the floor is yours, buddy.
Okay, thank you. Clem, going back to the Ben Garner situation, are you not disappointed that Ben has not thanked you, the club, and the fans for the opportunity he was given and the support that he was given? Because I can tell you, I certainly am. I'm disappointed in his attitude or lack of attitude.
That's an interesting question. Clem, did you get that loud and clear? It was a little bit quiet.
I didn't really hear it, Mark. Sorry.
Hey, no worries. Well, I'll try and paraphrase for Pete. So he was basically saying, you've been pretty gracious there, sort of in your summary about Ben Garner leaving, but were you disappointed that he's never come out publicly and thanked you, the club, the fans for what they gave him during his time at the club? Because Peter said he personally feels very disappointed that he's not come out and done that.
Look, I spoke to him. He thanked me. You've got to understand, I've been through an opportunity with a League One club, and look, I thank him for what he done for the club for the year, for the season. He did a great job. Am I disappointed? Yeah, but look, I can't. I'm never ever going to hold a grudge against Ben because he's looked for another opportunity. I would never do that. Look, that's the person I am, and he left for his own reasons, and I can't. And he did a great job. But I don't look at what's happened. I look at now we've got Scott Lindsay, and now he's our coach. So for now, I don't look at what's happened. I look at this season and what we need to look forward to. And I don't get hung up about what people have done and what they're going to do, because I'll never move forward. And for me, it's all about moving forward and moving to the future. I don't look at it. I don't get hung up about it. I wouldn't get out of bed.
No, that's fair comment. Clem, we're just having a quick last scan through. I think we're all pretty much done on questions from the listeners tonight. Is there we never used to really do this until we started doing it, and then it seems to be a very popular segment. Is there any questions you've got for us, or so as owner and CEO of our football club, is there anything that you would like to ask us? You can just politely say, no, you're all right, mate, and then we'll move on. But Paul Caddis got us started on this, so you can blame him.
What do I ask from the fan? What do the fans want from me as the chairman, and what do they want from the club? Because obviously I can run a business. I've never run a football club before, but obviously it's people, it's money in, money out, and engagement. What do they want from me as a chairman? I'm asking. Obviously, I'm probably a bit different to maybe the other chairmans. I'm playing football with the supporters, but that's me because I enjoy playing football. So, what do you want from me as an owner?
Well, I think. Listen, I mean, I'm going to say to the floor, like all those fans that are listening at the moment, if anyone wants to answer that on top of what I'm about to say, again, hit speaker request and come on and tell me what you want from Clem, and indeed, you know, what you want from your football club. I'll tell you what I want, and this is coming from the standpoint of a fan of the club since sort of 86, 87, Clem. I think, you know, for me, it's about having a club that we can be proud of. I think, and that really, that doesn't necessarily mean that we've got to have a quadruple tiered mega bowl right in the middle of Swindon. What that does mean is that we've got a club that operates at the heart of its community, whose players are pleased to reach out into the community, its management are pleased to reach out into the community, create a sense of feel good wherever, whatever sort of touch point they have. And certainly from an owner's point of view, you tick two, but it's a funny one because I don't want to be accused of being a sycophant here with this interview. But you've ticked two big boxes for me in the things that you said this evening, really. The first one is that, you know, in the third, if you consider I started supporting the club in 86, 87, by 89, 90, the club had already broken my heart because of things that had gone on with the finances of the club that led to us going to the very, very top tier with arguably the strongest team in my supporting history, to then being demoted 2 divisions and then restored a division on appeal. Now, that was absolutely appalling to go through, but the ripples of that have been felt all the way through my supporting time. So, for example, when we finally got to the Premier League, the kind of, you know, the train had left the station. Financially, it was very difficult for us to compete, whereas 3 years prior, we probably could have done that. And then I think, you know, you can continue to identify ripples right the way through. You know, we can talk about the Richie Wellens era, the Paolo Di Canio era, the Dennis Wise era. There are things that, you know, the finances have always been, and our football club have always been a bit of an embarrassment. I mean, fans of other clubs refer to us, unfortunately, as swindle. And that's something which is, no football club, no fan of their football club wants to be known as, you know, with names like that. So I think certainly, I think I'd be pretty confident, Clem, in saying I speak for the supporter base when I say the things that I say. But fundamentally, just keep. I think, you know, you and I spoke off air when we were setting this show up and talking about logistics. And I think what I say to you stands really. I think if you look at the fact that, you know, we have got last season, in a season where we didn't get promoted, we had countless numbers of 5-figure sort of attendances at the county ground. Whereas if you go back to the Paolo Di Canio era, in the same division, with arguably a stronger side, where we took that division by storm, you know, we were struggling at times. And under the Danny Wilson era, when we got to Wembley with Charlie Austin and Billy Painter, we were struggling to get 7,000, 8,000 crowds. So whatever you're doing, just keep believing that, you know, the silent, you know, majority are behind you, Clem, and don't allow yourself to be distracted by the very noisy minority. And also, I might hasten to add, you've got a massive Swindon fan sat as your CEO as well, and I'm sure that's a big help to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Look, I want to thank all the supporters and all their support that they've done. Like, Swindon Town's been the town and the people in it have been great. They've been really supportive, and I want to thank them all.
You're very welcome, Clem. Well, listen, you've given us you've got up at 6 o'clock your time to give us a brilliant hour of your time, Clem. Thanks for being so transparent. If there are other questions that come through, Clem, I'll be sure that we note them down and get them over to you. And if we can get those answered, and we'll get that back to the individuals that have posed them. And Rob, likewise, thanks ever so much for intervening in your family holiday, letting us intervene in your family holiday. and thanks for coming on. We really appreciate that interruption, buddy.
That's right. Thanks for having us on, and appreciate all the support from everybody.
No,
it means a huge amount, mate. Getting behind the team and the numbers that the fans have, and the vocal support makes a massive difference.
Hey, no worries at all. And yeah, come on, you Reds for Saturday. Obviously, all kicking off Harrogate on Saturday. Clem, clearly you won't be there. Rob, are you back from holiday?
No, I'm not back for this one. Unfortunately, the start of the league being brought forward on school holiday mean I've had to miss it, unfortunately. But I'll be back early next week.
So you'll be back. We'll see you for Salford, all being well.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's outstanding. All right then, gentlemen. Well, look, thank you ever so much again. Clem, brilliant hearing from you. Thanks for taking the time all the way from Brizzy. And Rob, thanks again. We'll let you get back to your family holidays.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
Cheers, gentlemen. Take good care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Well, there we are. Rob Angus and Clem Morfuni, ladies and gentlemen. It's always an interesting sort of... It's an interesting interview to host when you're talking to management of our football club, because I think we touched on it. You know, there is a very noisy, very cynical minority in my own personal supporting experience, and also speaking as a former sponsor of a football club. The numbers of conversations I've had over the last 30 years, just because I speak with a distinctive South East London twang to my voice, and the links to certain people that have been and gone at our football club over the years. I've answered more queries like that about my personal supporting status than I care to mention. And some of it can be unbelievably vitriolic. Even in the setting up of this interview, you probably won't be surprised to hear that there are certain people that have sent messages through to me saying that, you know, I bet I sent the questions through in advance, or I bet they've all been approved. I can promise you this, and I'll make any promise that I can possibly make to you, that not a single question that's come through has been shared with Clem in advance. Not a single question was shared with Rob, and there's been no kind of filtering process that's gone through to make that a nice jolly boys time this evening. I just want to stress that. The conversation obviously was held live. Clearly, we have recorded it, which we will be putting that out sort of, you know, in advance. But it's always one of the reasons why our show is always a little bit rough around the edges, is that we try and be as authentic as we possibly can. We don't allow ourselves any kind of editing space. It is literally as and how the content unfolds. So listen. I'm really, really keen to get as many of you good folk on here as possible to discuss some of our any other business. I'd certainly be interested in your views on Swindon Town 2, Cardiff City 4 from the weekend. Myself and Declan Pike were on commentary duty, making our commentary debut at the county ground on Saturday. I think, for my take, again, I'm really interested in getting your take on what you saw. I think it's fair to say we're all pretty underwhelmed by the first half performance. Max, did you manage to tune into the game remotely, or because Cardiff are obviously offering the opportunity to tune in for £3? Did you see any of the action?
I didn't get a chance other than watching Ian's clips on Twitter. So I've seen bits and bobs, but not enough to kind of get a clear view of the way the game went. Obviously, you can judge what you want from highlights, but I don't think I had the clearest view of the game. But from what I've seen, it seems to be they wanted to give them a challenge to go into the season, and mistakes. You saw a few mistakes in the game, but I think my general thoughts on the game is you'd rather see those mistakes in a pre-season game rather than the Harrogate game next week. Hopefully they learn from it.
Yeah, I think there was one. Obviously, there was a glaring howler, a mix-up between Kean Harris and Sol Bryn. I think what was really interesting for me in relation to that goal was just how quickly everybody seemed to turn on Kean Harris, as opposed to sort of placing the blame at Sol Bryn's feet. I mean, for me, I think the clip's quite clear for everyone to see. I think he had plenty of opportunity, the goalkeeper, to put his foot through it, send it into the stands. And, you know, at the end of the day, I wasn't getting my knickers in a twist because the ball ended up in the back of the net. As you say, Max, like pre-season's all about getting those ricks sort of, you know, out the system. Sometimes it is that little jolt, that little bit of muscle memory that prevents that from happening in real time. But we talked quite a lot, Max, on the commentary about how Swindon, we as supporters, we love a whipping boy. And I know most clubs have all got whipping boys, but I think it's wholly unfair that you know, that people already seem to be kind of getting on Kean Harris's back. And the only reason for that I can see is that A, he's come from Rovers. B, the Rovers fans seem to just absolutely delight in putting the boot in on one of their ex-players joining us. And yeah, I mean, you know, his performances to date, he's, you know, you can see he's not Angus MacDonald. He's not, you know, he certainly doesn't seem to quite be at the level of a Kieran Brennan. But the guy's got pedigree, hasn't he? You know, former Welsh under-21 international, signed by Rovers with, you know, quite a bit of pedigree from his time at Swansea. What was your views on that particular goal, and indeed the fallout from it, Max, and indeed the kind of fallout from the game in relation to Mr. Harries?
I think, well, on the goal, I think I posted a tweet regarding it saying it just seemed like a really lazy back pass from him, and he's put the goalie in a bad, he's put Sprint in a bad situation. I think you're right in pointing the finger slightly at Bryn as well, because there's better ways he could have dealt with the ball coming into him like that. I think that he just panicked probably because he wasn't expecting the pass. But yeah, you'd like to see both of them do better with it. In terms of Harry's, yeah, you can't help but have it as a slight concern. But I think the thing that puts my mind at ease is the fact we've got so many options at centre back. So it's not like maybe last season where we had an injury crisis and not as much depth that we'd have to stick with an out of form centre back. Maybe if we were in the same position as last year, but I'm not too worried with the depth we have. We've got a lot of quality. We've got some decent quality at centre back in MacDonald. We know that we can count on Baldry. I believe that Clayton can play centre back as well. So, and again, it's early days. He might be. You don't know what might have happened between his move to Rovers and here. I don't think he came in. Did he come in fairly late, Harry's? He hasn't been there since the start, has he?
No, well, no. I mean, Harry's was one of our earlier signings, mate. If truth be from what I recall, I think he followed in quite quickly after Tyree Shade. So I don't. No,
I think you might. Yeah, you're right. I think I've got him mixed up with someone else. But
no, yeah, no worries. Well, I mean, obviously, so this was the thing. I mean, he wasn't the only centre half on Saturday that, you know, played a misplaced pass that, you know, led to either a goal or an opportunity. I mean, certainly, you know, Kieran Brennan got away with, you know, or certainly the levels of criticism that he received for his performance was nowhere near that of Harry's. I think the fact that Brennan recovered really well in the second half, whereas Harry's appeared to go down with a bit of a knock, sort of holding his groin, came off at half time, so didn't really have an opportunity to redeem himself. I think Clayton came on. Tommy Clayton came on and looked very, very accomplished again, just as he did against Woking. I mean, just to give you an idea, against Woking, he hadn't seen the players prior to signing or prior to turning up for Woking. There'd been no training ground action at all. And he stepped out on the pitch, and one of his first touches, he's pinged a 50-yard virtuoso pass to Harry McCurdy, who's taken it down and lofted it over the keeper for the fourth goal. I think you know, there was a little bit of that from him on Saturday. He just looks very, very silky, very accomplished. He's got a real authority on the ball. I think my only concern that I've got about Tommy Clayton is his physical presence, because he's not a big lump, and it's a very, very physical league.
But yeah, it's going to be a jump from coming from under 23s football right into that. I think it'll be interesting to see how he adapts his game.
Yeah, but you know, the thing that really excites me is that, you know, he's also an option that can fill in for Louis Reed as well, take a little bit of pressure off of Louis Reed. We talked on Saturday about the fact that last season there were some times where you sort of felt that, you know, that Louis was running on empty. And so if you think about some of the suspensions that Louis picked up, where he just seemed to really uncharacteristically blow his lid, I wonder how much of that was down to the fact that the guy was just literally like running on fumes. So to have an accomplished option to slot in at central defensive midfielder, as well as someone that, can comfortably slot back in at centre back. I think that's really exciting.
And that's definitely something we missed last year, right? Think of the period when Reed was out suspended, and I think Chris has said it many times before that we didn't win a game when he wasn't in the side. So that's an area we definitely needed cover. So it looks like we have that.
Yeah, 100%. So that's really exciting. I think going on to our goals. I mean, I was really excited with Tyree Shade's performance on the right hand side. It was an interesting deployment of Shade and indeed Romeo Hutton on the left hand side. So Hutton looks very, very right footed, and he had a very bright sort of first 5 minutes. But then there was a very, very heavy touch with his left peg where he's kind of, he had a big opportunity to stride down a flank, miscontrolled it, and the ball went out of play. And it seemed to sort of knock him off his stride for the remainder of the first half. And there are a couple of Walsall fans that I was talking to ahead of the away game last season, right at the end of the season. And they were really raving about Tyree Shade. And one of the things that they were saying to me is that he's actually really he had been really, after a shaky part of the season earlier in the year, he'd really established himself as a super option down the left hand side as wing back. So it sort of surprised me that we had Shade playing on the right hand side, and then we had a right footed right wing back playing on the left. And I was expecting them to rotate, like literally switch as the game went on, and it just didn't happen. But then, lo and behold, obviously, Shade, some beautiful football from Town, some lovely build-up play where the ball eventually finds its way to Louis Reed, who manages to get Tyree Shade in a bit of space on the right-hand side. And Shade's finish was a peach, Max, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there was just, I think the thing that stands out to me about the goal is the build-up play. And it's funny you mentioned about Hutton being very right-footed, but he plays a big part in. They find him out on the left-hand side, and he cuts it. I think it's his pass that gets to Reed. I think he cuts it into Reed, who gets the Shade, and then it's just a nice finish. I'm excited to see what they do with Shade because he's just an option. He seems to be an option all over the pitch. So it's a good headache in a way that I think Lindsay might have to find his best position, whether that is at left wing back or whether he pushes him further up the pitch. Maybe he goes with him and Hutton on the left, or he could go with him and Devine on the left.
Yeah, I make you right. I mean, we talked about this on Saturday. I think one of the things that risks impeding the development of Tyree Shade at Swindon Town Football Club will be his versatility. He's capable in pretty much every single outfield position. So, it's what do you want? Do you want a capable utility man, or do you want a real superstar in a certain position? I mean, I think it's so early. We clearly don't know what his best position is yet. They're probably still trying to. I mean, I'm sure he's probably stated to the management what his best position is. But I guess the exciting thing for me on Saturday was he didn't look at all out of place on the right hand side against a very, very decent Cardiff side. I thought Cardiff were a super test. Thought they were very physical. Thought they were very mobile. Some of their movement was fantastic. I think that probably their fans were getting a bit carried away with themselves, talking to a few outside the ground on the weekend, and they seem to be suggesting that they're going to give that division a good go. But I mean, I don't think I saw enough of them on Saturday to think that. But just to round up on Shade, really lovely finish with his right peg, low past the keeper into the bottom left-hand corner, really nice finish. Obviously, then substitutions are made, and Jacob Wakeling's found his way onto the pitch. Now, I'll tell you what really surprised me, Max, at the weekend was that Harry McCurdy took a really, really heavy knock early in the first half and was limping really heavily. Like the gasps around the county ground were audible from where we were sat in the commentary box. And Harry at one point was motioning to the dugout and has gone down, received treatment, and then eventually, much further into the second half, where they're sort of making changes and Wakeling's coming on, much to our surprise. Tommy Adeloye, who was having a super game up front for Town, really lovely silky play, some nice hold-up play, really good link play. Adeloye went off, and Wakeling finished the half playing up front with Harry McCurdy. So, again, we saw this in pre-season against Woking and other sides where you basically ended up with two really, really pressing forwards, both of them really sort of like, essentially sharking around the centre-backs, putting them under pressure and trying to force errors. And it worked a treat. Jacob Wakeling's goal, what did you make of it, Max?
Yeah, I mean, he's just, you can tell that he's just come on with a bundle of energy, and he's taking advantage of running at some tired defenders, gets a bit of luck on the ball, but it's a good left-footed finish into the bottom corner, takes deflection, but he'll take that, and you never know, he could take that into the game on Saturday, whether he starts up front or not. I think that's the other big question mark, isn't it? Whether it's going to be him or Adeloy that take. Well, obviously Adeloy's got the number 9 shirt, but whoever's going to get that spot in the team. But yeah, I'm a big fan of. You can see the energy he had as soon as he came on, and he deserved the goal out of it.
Yeah, he has got boundless energy. Apparently, he's got very, very, very high fitness levels. He's very, very quick, and I have continued to make very lazy comparisons with a certain Jerry Yates, who we'll remember. Obviously playing on the, initially playing on the left-hand side, cutting in, dovetailing beautifully with Owen Doyle. So I can see Wakeling playing off of Adeloy. I can already see how the partnership works when he plays with Harry McCurdy. I just think when you're playing with the two little guys up top, you've not got a lot there in terms of like making the ball stick. You clearly have two strikers that are going to hunt and try and force errors, ably supported by the midfield. But yeah, a little bit more traditional big man, little man with Adeloy. When the ball was played into him, he was holding it up. He was looking to play people in. So I guess it's early signs. I mean, people were asking about Plan A and Plan B, weren't they, Max, last season? I think that's probably a nice little early sign there of Plan A and Plan B. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it looks like it's a case of you're going to have Adeloy playing well off of, you'll have McCurdy probably playing off Adeloy, trying to pick up as many goals as he got last year. And then if you need some energy coming on the 15 minutes, I'm a fan of bringing Massey on, because, again, that was something we missed last season. Even during Tyrese's spell, there wasn't really much spring on. I mean, they brought on Parsons a few times, but I never thought he really had enough about him to make an impact in 5 or 10 minutes, whereas I think Wakeling looks like the kind of player who really can make the most of that time, and it's just another good option. I think the thing we've improved on from last season, I've said it over and over again, is just we've got so many options in that squad now. We've got a good sized squad with players all over the pitch. Maybe people are wanting a proven striker. I think you get a proven striker, and you've got 3 good options up there. You throw in as well, what's his name, the lad from Plymouth,
Oscar Massey.
Oscar Massey as well as another option. I mean, he's got a squad number, so whether you think, how much involvement will he have in the squad?
Well, listen, I'll tell you a little something about Oscar Massey. So obviously we commentated away at the Woking game, and I had an opportunity to rub shoulders with a few of the boys, Oscar being one of them. And I cannot believe a little bit of the Tyree Simpsons about Oscar Massey in terms of his physical size. For a lad that is so young, he is physically really imposing. And then what really strikes me is when he runs with so much power. And talking to the coaching staff, they were all like unequivocal in their view that Oscar Massey's got a goal in him. And you've only got to look at his goal scoring record at the junior ranks for Plymouth. I mean, they're frightening. And they're very, very disappointed that they've lost him to Swindon Town. So, yeah, I think, I mean, I can see us operating as a 4-3-3. I think there's already strikers through the door, but inevitably, I can understand the clamour for an experienced number 9. The irony of ironies is that how much time have we spent tonight talking to Clem and Rob about Tyree Simpson? yeah,
exactly.
We're talking about, but then it's the difference between an experienced number 9 and someone that's kind of proven that he can do the job. It's just ironic that here we are talking about a 20-year-old, if that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what fans are after, I think what the general fans are after is a known entity, right? Not necessarily. I think not necessarily looking for someone like Doyle who came in at 29, 30 and he'd been there and done it in League One and League Two. I think Simpson's a proven entity. Whether it would have been someone like one who's went to Crawley from Newport, Dominic Telford, someone like I think that's the sort of name fans want. And under this model, I just don't think you're going to see something like that because they want value out of the players, right? I don't think that the amount of money you would have spent on someone like him, I don't think you would have got value for the amount of wages you would have been demanding. Simpson, there's argument value there, but 600,000 is the asking price that Ipswich are throwing about. I can't see us paying that.
No, I make you right, and I think that is bonkers money. There is not a cat in hell's chance that any club, and I mean any club, is going to spend that amount of money on Tyree Simpson. I said it on Saturday. It is the hill I'm willing to die on. I say this with all due respect to Tyrese. Super player. I would literally go over to Ipswich and drive him to the county ground personally if there was any sniff of him joining our football club. Right? I cannot be any more enthusiastic about just how much I'd want to see Tyrese back in a Swindon shirt. But the simple fact is, we're not going to be spending that kind of money, irrespective on people's views on, but you could end up selling him for $2.5 million further down the line, this, that, and the other. Look, we are a League Two club that is coming back from, the cataclysmic finances, as Clem's kind of pretty much explained today. Taking over the club with a tenner in the bank, and then all these other kind of debts coming out of the woodwork, right? So to go and spend 600 grand on a striker is a nonsense. But I think that figure is a nonsense from Ipswich in the first place. I do, however, think that if you talked about a structured deal or over a period of time, we might spend 600 grand. Maybe not 600, but I could imagine us kind of pushing the £300 to £400 bracket. If we are talking about structured payments, sell-on clauses, things like that, then maybe I can see that working. But anyway, I mean, I think we've heard enough probably from the management of the club tonight and over the course of the last couple of weeks, where they've been very respectful of Tyree Simpson and his position with Ipswich, to know that he's coveted by Swindon Town Football Club. But, things are going to have to give at Ipswich's end. But now you mentioned, Max, we've had a news of the squad numbers being released. So for those of you that haven't seen it, we will retweet if you need those, but I'm sure you've probably all seen it out on Twitter anyway. Number 1 is Sol Bryn. Number 2 is Romeo Hutton. Number 3 is Ellis Iandolo. Number 4 is Tom Clayton. Number 5 is Louis Reed. Number 6 is Matthew Bowdry. Number 7, Ben Gladwin. Number 8, Johnny Williams. Number 9, Tommy Adeloy. Number 10, Ronan Darcy. Number 11, Harry McCurdy. Number 12, Lewis Ward. Number 13, Oscar Massey. 17, Ricky Aguiar. 18, Reece Devine. 21, Angus MacDonald. 23, Saidu Khan. 24, Jacob Wakeling. 26, Keane Harris. 28, Tyree Shade. 29, Harry Parsons. 30, Mo Darbury. 31, Harrison Minter. And 32, George Calmedo. And last but very much not least, Kieran Brennan at number 34. Now, Max, was there anything from the squad numbers that you felt gave you any kind of hints about how the boys are going to be shaping up, or who's going to be a first choice selection on Saturday?
Well, Louis Reed's playing centre back according to the numbers, so
yeah, he is.
I thought I'd get that in for Tyler.
Tom Clayton's been so excited. They've got to try and find a way to fit him and Tom Clayton into the same side, haven't they? As well as this plethora of centre-backs. So, yes, indeed. But we jest. I mean, look.
I think the goalkeeper one is the one that everyone's shouting about, right? And it reminds me, and I've seen a few people say it about when we had Stephen Bender in at the same time as Luke McCormick, and Bender was wearing the number 1, but he wasn't the starter at the start of the season. So, I don't know. I wouldn't draw too much out of that. I guess we'll see on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a tricky one, the goalkeepers, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, Lewis's record in pre-season versus Sol's, in terms of being on the winning side, are polar opposites. And then Saturday rolls round, and Sol's had a game that he'll want to forget. Lewis has come on. He's got a big hand to their 4th goal. Maybe he sort of hopes he could have kept that one out, but he came on, and Swindon played with a certain kind of, renewed authority. And actually ended up sort of sticking a fairly respectable scoreline together by the final whistle. So I mean, it's a tricky one because if you'd asked me a week or so ago, I was saying, well, it looks to me, all intents and purposes, Middlesbrough have loaned us this young goalkeeper. They're going to want him to play. Solbrin's going to start as number one. But you reflect on Saturday's performance, Lewis, very, very cool, calm and collected. And you look at the way that Lewis ended last season as well. I think you've got to start with Lewis between the sticks, Max, haven't you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not just for Lewis's form at the end of the season, and he single-handedly kept us in that second leg of the playoffs. But also look at what happened with Matty Kovar when we exposed the young goalkeeper coming into his first professional season and letting him play even after mistake after mistake after mistake. When we didn't really have an experienced goalkeeper to bring in to deputise at that point. So I think Britain's one of those that if he is going to be our starter, you got to do what we did with Bender, bed him in slowly. Don't expose him too early. Let him play those JPT games. Let him play those Carling Cup games, and go from there. But at the same time, you got to pick your best team. I imagine there'll be some sort of financial implications if we were to not play Britain. But if it's a choice between a financial commitment to Middlesbrough or getting points on the board and winning games, I think you've got to deal with what's best for the team, haven't you?
Yeah, I'll make you absolutely right. I mean, okay, so I'm definitely going Ward. Is it fair to say you're going with Ward?
Yeah, I'm going with Ward.
All right, then. So then we've got 3 centre-backs to pick. So I'm gonna tell you who I'm gonna go with because again, squad numbers mean absolutely nothing. But I thought Angus MacDonald looked really essentially looked like he'd been there a hell of a lot longer than 5 or 6 days or whatever it was. However long he'd been through the door. Looked really assured, really calm at the back. Couple of really nice blocks, couple of really nice tackles, dominant in the air, and the captain's armband as well. And I think the introduction in the second half of Matt Bowdery alongside him, Matt seemed to just pick up where he left off last season. The delightful dip of the shoulder that he's got, where he pushes up into midfield to give us a bit of a midfield overload. I thought that looked absolutely fantastic at times. And alongside them, he was a little bit erratic on Saturday, but I like what I've seen elsewhere in pre-season, which was Kieran Brennan. Sheffield Wednesday fans that you talk to about him are very, very enthusiastic about what Brennan brings to the table. They thought that he could have been there having a bit of a push at the first team this year. Probably wouldn't have been an automatic starter, but would have been there or thereabouts. And for us to have him in League Two, according to them, is a bit of a coup. That is not because I am all up for making Kieran Harris my whipping boy, but I just think that's got to be your best sort of 3 centre backs, I think, for current money, with the only real debate being the role of Tom Clayton or the omission of Tom Clayton, because I think even before you've named your back three, I know you're going to put in a central defensive midfielder. So, but who are your back three, Max?
I think mine's exactly the same. I think over the season it's going to be a toss-up between Brennan and Harries, but I think given the performance against Cardiff and given that he picked up a knock in the game, I can't see them throwing him back in, especially centre-back where you're probably not going to sub him off for 90 minutes.
Yeah,
and you've got the Walsall game in the cup the week after, where you can probably bet him in backburn and then see where we're at after 3 games.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think obviously McDonald's going to start as captain, and Baldry I'd have him regardless.
So obviously you've talked about Harries there being your automatic sort of backup choice as centre back. Would you have Harries in there as your first choice over and above Tom Clayton?
I think it's between them two. I see Clayton more as the Reed rotation option, but again, I haven't seen enough of Clayton to see how good he's going to be at centre back at League Two level, right? So I think that's something that's going to develop over the next couple of games, and we'll see where he ends up.
All right. So a lot of controversy, a bit stirred up brilliantly by the Supporters Trust in terms of their the poll that they've been running about who your midfield selection is going to be. So I think we can pretty much both safely say that we have 2 feet firmly in the Louis Reed camp, wearing the number 5 shirt. Max, is that correct?
Definitely.
Left-sided midfield, then, of the 3, Max, who are you going with? Because there are more choices this season than we had last, but who are you picking?
On the left, I'm going with Johnny Williams.
Yeah. Good.
And are we about to say the same fella on the right-hand side of the midfield?
Do you know what? I think you've got to go Johnny Williams. And the only reason why I think Johnny is an absolute automatic choice is Ellis has had a real kind of injury interrupted pre-season. There was a point last season where, you and I were waxing lyrical about Ellis being kind of one of the first names on the team sheet once he kind of got over a sort of an uncomfortable, is the best way to describe it, I think, to be polite, an uncomfortable period of time playing left wing back. Ellis coming in on the left side of the three centre midfielders. He looked absolutely outstanding. But I think with him sort of, still looking to get himself back up to full fitness, it's got to be Johnny on the left, doesn't it? But a lad that obviously really impressed is my choice to come in on the right-hand side, which is going to upset the apple cart, because on Saturday, newly appointed vice-captain Ben Gladwin was playing in that position. Didn't necessarily. One of the things that Ben really caught the eye with on Saturday was a vastly improved work rate versus what he was giving us last season. I would love to be able to compare a sit down with one of the analysts and compare his stats in terms of the mileage that he's covering and whether it's an illusion or not, because Ben's got a very languid, gangly style of running, which can be deceptive. But Ben's come back from pre-season 5 kilos lighter. He looks it and he looks really aggressive. And Scott Lindsay's talked about him aggressively affecting games moving forward. However, the guy that came off the bench, Sadio Khan, on Saturday, looked absolute Rolls Royce to me. I mean, again, Max, we're lucky enough to get a few words with him after the game on Saturday, and sort of commented that, I mean, effectively, every single touch he had from the moment he came on to the final whistle came off. There wasn't a single misplaced pass. He looked very tidy, looked very aggressive, wanting to get forward. And then the first thing he said to me after the game, when I asked him what his aims were, was, I want to get on the ball. I want to get in the team. I want to get on the ball. I want to score a load of goals. So if you're talking about replacing Jack Payne, and you've got that showing that he gave us on Saturday, for me, I'm putting Khan in. Who are you going with, though, on the right-hand side?
Oh, it's hard because Khan looked from the clips I've seen, and with Shade's goal in the build-up play, he did look quality, didn't he? He did look really good. I love Gladwin, and I think if he's vice captain, I think he's starting. But I think now we've got 5 subs, you don't have to force as many minutes through Ben's legs, especially the work rate. He can make the most of maybe a shorter amount of time. So,
but I'll tell you what, Max, Ben's the kind of guy, he's got to play. He's got to be playing.
I know
he's got to be getting his legs.
I can't imagine the headache that Lindsay's got, not just putting the names on the whiteboard before the game, but having to tell these lads, I'm sorry, but the other guys in today. Yeah. I think we're gonna see a lot of rotation in midfield, aren't we? Which I think is a good thing, because you don't want players getting overexposed. We need an option there for when Johnny goes away with Wales.
Well, you've got that. So let's talk about it, because you've got Ronan Darcy, who was absolutely
another one
standing on Saturday when he came on.
And he's got the number 10 shirt.
Yeah.
Calm number 10 on the bench.
Like Jimmy Bullard. He was, in fairness to Ronan Darcy, like he's got a real motor, a real enthusiasm, clearly loving life in SM1. Okay, so I think this is the thing. That pre-season, just talking about the midfield now, but this obviously affects the entire side, but all the players have talked about the fact that whilst the word's not been used, I think pre-season for them has been pretty brutal. There's been a lot of hard running, the work rate that they're expected to do. I think Scott talked about it on Saturday about I think it was like another 8 kilometres over and above their normal weekly average. And they went into the game fatigued as a result of that on Saturday. Now, I think you will see a lot of that kind of 60, 65 minute rotation where, you'll probably have a player that comes on at that 65 minutes that may well start the next game, and the player he's replaced will be on the bench, and then they'll rotate it that way. So it's not necessarily match to match. It's going through periods of play, like, almost like banking games, if you will, and selecting them that way and giving them time to recover and so forth. I think it's going to be huge, the squad usage this season across the midfield, Max. I've got to be frank. So let's get our 3 centre midfielders bolted down in for Saturday. You're going for Louis Reed, holding central midfielder. On the left-hand side, we both agreed with Johnny Williams, but on the right-hand side, you're going Ben Gladwin, I'm going Sadio Khan. Is that fair?
I'm going Ben Gladwin. He scored on the opening day last season, so let's go with him again this season.
And I guarantee you he'll score an absolute screamer as well.
I'm counting on it.
The locker. Right, let's talk wing backs then. So given what I've said to you about Saturday's performance, me personally, I would have gone Shade on the left and I'd go Hutton on the right hand side. And I hate to say it, but the way that things are shaping up with competition in the midfield, and I really, really don't want to see this happen, but I've got a sneaky feeling Ellis is going to find himself on the left-hand side a little bit more this year than we would like. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you might be right there. Just looking at all the options in midfield, like you throw Darcy, throw Aguiar in there as well as another option in midfield that you've got, whether they put Mo Dabry in, I think. And the fact that they played Romeo Hutton on the left, if they could play Romeo Hutton on the left, if he's comfortable doing that and cutting inside, it's looking like it's going to be Devine and Ellis on the left, and then it'll probably end up being Hutton on the right hand side with who would it be? Who would it be the other right back? If it's Hutton,
yeah,
Hutton and Shade, Hutton and Shade.
Yeah.
Because I suppose them two can play either side, right? So
yeah. But also on the other option that you've got on the right, certainly, I don't think he's necessarily going to be an orthodox sort of defensive right back, but George Calmedo came on against Woking on the right hand side and actually really certainly impressed me for the the sort of 20-minute spell that he had out there. We'll come on to Calmedo for very different reasons shortly, but I think we have got options there. I think that it was a little bit frustrating because I think Reece Devine's carrying a knock as well, isn't he? Which is what kept him out of Saturday's game. Because when I first saw the lineup, I thought, he must have gone down to Worthing. But no, from what I understand, he wasn't there on Saturday because he had a knock. All right, then. So your wing backs, then you're pretty much keeping it as it was Saturday. Am I right in understanding you're going Hutton down the left hand side and you're going Shade on the right?
Yeah, I think so. And if you need to, you can. I think they can switch over if they need to during the game if cutting inside isn't going well for either of them. So I think those are a good two to have either side.
Right then. So then we've got the small matter of our strikers. So we're going with a 3-5-2. As we believe he's going to set up. Who are you going with, Max?
I think it'll be Adeloy in the central striker role.
Adeloy, yeah, I would agree with that. I've got to tell you, really, really impressed. I know I said this earlier, but offered a really good physical presence. There were a couple of touches that he made at the weekend where I said it was like he was wearing his slippers. It was just absolutely beautiful, like real silky touch. And the only thing that Adeloy is going to have against him this year is the fact that he's joined us from the lower reaches of Scotland. And that is going to literally be the only thing that's going to put doubts in people's minds. Similarly to Harry's has joined us from Bristol Rovers. Right, okay, well, let's put the boot in on him. Adeloy, he's joined us from Ayr United. Right, okay, well, Ayr United, really? But listen, I can only judge as a find. Had I ever heard of him before we signed him? No.
But had you heard of Simpson? Had you heard of Simpson when he joined? Had you heard of Jerry Yates when he joined? I think at this level, all you need is them to hit the ground running.
Yep.
And he's got good players around him, so why not?
You've taken the words right out of my mouth, Max. I think this is the thing. Like at League 2 level, how many times are we're gonna sign players that we've never heard of, and by the end of the season they're going to be heroes. I think we had Sandro Di Michele on the show, didn't we, about sort of 3 or 4 weeks back, and Sandro was talking then around Jack Payne maybe leaving or the impact of players leaving our club, and it was like, look, players are going to come, players are going to go. We as a club are always going to be a selling club. It's the nature of the beast. But crucially, it's about, well, let's go and find some new heroes. And I genuinely believe that if we get behind Tommy Adeloy, that lad's he's gonna score his fair share this season. I saw just the things that I loved about him on Saturday was just his positional play. Like I said, he was really good at bringing other people into the game. And bearing in mind, like that's his first proper action in a Swindon shirt as well. To come straight into the county ground. I appreciate it was only like 3,500 people in the ground, but he's to effectively make like his home debut. Appreciate it's pre-season friendly, but to just play like he was totally fearless. Given that he's just moved up from the lower reaches of Scotland, he was completely fearless. He just looked really accomplished. So I'm with you, mate. I'm definitely going with him. Who are you going to play alongside him?
Well, McCurdy's the obvious one. I think he's gonna. You if he's fit, you pick him. He'll play basically the full 90. Got goals in him. He's still got that drive to go forward in him. Got some goals in pre-season. Hopefully, he can just kick on and pick up where he left off. Right.
Well, on Saturday, he absolutely picked up where he left off. He was an absolute pest. He incurred the wrath of the Cardiff fans. With the Harry McCurdy antics that we all know and love, and you love it if the guy on your team's doing it. You hate it if it's the guy on the other side doing it. And he pretty much was the Harry McCurdy of last season. Obviously, the big difference being he's now blonde and he's got a bit of a dodgy lid, and the ponytail's gone from last season. But yeah, he was playing with the same sort of characteristic kind of that we saw last season from him. The only sort of the only kind of issue around debating his position and as in the starting lineup at the weekend is the fact that Wakeling's come on and scored a belter. But I might add that Wakeling came on and scored a belter playing alongside McCurdy and not Adeloy. So it's a tough one. I mean, I think we've talked about Wakeling already, so we won't go into too much detail. But we're pretty much saying then, I'll start to finish. I think we're pretty much in agreement, bar the odd one or two positions, but we're going Lewis Ward in goal. We are going 3 centre-backs of Brennan, Bowdery, McDonald. We are going with Hutton on the left-hand side, Shade on the right-hand side, Louis Reed sat in front of the back three, Johnny Williams on the left of the midfield, and you and I are debating whether it's going to be Ben Gladwin or Saidu Khan on the right-hand side of midfield.
And then Darcy is an option there as well.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna be a big headache for Lindsay going into Saturday.
Yes, yeah, big time. And then our strikers, it's gonna I think we're both in favour of Adeloy starting alongside McCurdy. If Wakeling gets put in there, I've got a feeling it won't be McCurdy's replacing; it'll be Adeloy. But I've got a feeling he'll go with the big lad, little lad, typical 10 and 9 playing alongside each other on Saturday. I won't pin you to the substitutes, Max, but I am going to pin you to a prediction for Saturday, please.
I'm going to go 3-1 Town after being 1-0 down at half time.
Well, I think that Harrogate, I'm going to jinx us now, but I think Harrogate are going to be the Scunthorpe equivalent this season. I think they're in for a really, really difficult season. I agree. I haven't seen any signings that Harrogate have made that indicate to me that they are punching above their weight. And I've got to tell you, the away performance last season, they were god awful. They were that's one of the worst defensive performances I've seen, bar Walsall, from a team that we faced last year, 6s and 7s all over the place. And I think if that game had gone on for another 20 minutes, we would have probably, blimey, it could have been double figures. It
should have been. Yeah, it should have been a lot more than it was on that. I was there that day, and it was like a training game at times.
Yeah. So
lovely pies, though. Good pies at Harrogate. If anyone's going Harrogate on Saturday, get the pork pie.
The pork pie, lovely. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, lovely club. Real non-league vibe about it. But I've just got a sneaky feeling they've got a one-way ticket out of the Football League this season. So hopefully the guys go up there, can put on a performance, and we don't have that kind of, that horrible conversation that we have when it doesn't go our way first game of the season. Well, it doesn't matter. It's a bit like a pre-season friendly, blah, blah, blah. I think it's better, Scott Lindsay's talked a lot about winning mentality, and I think it's really, really important we get off to a flyer on Saturday, and I think we will. I am saying a comfortable 3-0 Town is what I am saying. So we're in a similar ballpark, Max, I think. Similar ballpark. So one of the things that did come out of the squad numbers was the choice of, we've already talked about a choice of vice captain, but obviously with Jack Payne disappearing, that job needed to be allocated. And the gaffer has gone with a lad that had been in the building less than a week. And Angus MacDonald's got the armband. Were you at all surprised, Max?
A little bit, but I think I'm not one. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have picked a player that's only just joined. But they've obviously done their research into him. I think he's been captain at clubs before. He's got that experience at the high level, so it does make sense. I think he'll be a good option.
Yeah, I think he's a natural choice to be skipper of our football club. I think he will. Obviously, his relationships. It's like you walk into any workplace. His relationships just are going to be pretty much non-existent. I'm sure there'll be a couple of legacy relationships around the changing room. There always is with footballers. But the simple fact is, relatively recently, he has captained Barnsley and he's captained Hull City, much further up the Football League. He's clearly got the right characteristics. And I think he did a really interesting piece with Johnny Leafield in the advert, I think it was today, where he talked about, being professional, being inspirational, and being brave, saying that there were 3 key characteristics of being a skipper. Well, if Angus MacDonald is professional, inspirational, and brave, and he's got that pedigree and that track record of being a captain elsewhere, for me, that's a natural choice. So we welcome you to the armband, Angus, and we wish you all the best, because he's certainly had a tough time of it, hasn't he, with injury and illness, Max? And
yeah, and do you know what? I liked his interview on BBC Worlds with Andrew Hawes as well, where I love the way he spoke about it, in that he doesn't want to be known as that player who had cancer. He doesn't want that to be his defining factor. I was a big fan of the interview he did on the radio last weekend.
Yeah, no, completely with you. It's a big signing, Angus MacDonald. It's a big signing for him as much as it is a big signing for Swindon Town, because there's still potential for him to do something really significant in his career, in the same way that Gordon Greer did when Gordon Greer joined Swindon back in 2010, if I recall.
Yeah.
Where there had been issues with injury. He had a similar pedigree, skipper where else he'd been. And Gordon Greer went on to have another 5-6 years playing at the very top level and forced his way as a starter into the Scotland lineup. So I think if I'm Angus MacDonald, I'm looking to get my career on track and I'm looking to make up for lost time. I'm sure he's going to be one of those players that, for the period of time out the game that he suffered with injury and illness, it strikes me he's probably going to be the kind of character that's going to want to claw that back and play on maybe later into his 30s. And let's be honest, Matt Bowdery is the blueprint for that, isn't he?
Yeah, and we've got the sports science team around us that if it's with us, I think we've got the people behind the scenes to keep his body going for that long. The only thing I will say with the comparison to Gordon Greer is I hope he doesn't go booting anyone in the chest in an important game.
I don't know. If it's Dion Burton, he's welcome to boot him into Rose Ed for all I care. Just preferably not in playoff games, Gordon, where we hold a slim advantage, or indeed we've just had that rubbed out. But anyway, all that's we all know how that ended, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to talk to you about strikers and tweets, because there's been a couple of naughty tweets put out there this week by strikers with Swindon Town of a Swindon Town lineage. And firstly, Mr. McCurdy's been up to his naughty best, hasn't he? I think it was on Instagram, where he was having some banter with some Port Vale fans, and it seemed like some of the Swindon Town faithful maybe got the wrong end of the stick. Max, what did you make of it?
I didn't actually see the stuff with Vale. I saw his Luton antics, which I just thought it was funny. It was an obvious joke. You have to fill me in on the Vale stuff.
Well, it was actually, the Luton tweets were all linked in too. There were Vale fans that were in there, apparently all mixed in with the banter. So there was Luton fans and some Vale fans giving it some. So unless I've misread that, but yeah, I'm glad that you read it the same way I did. It was quite clearly Harry doing Harry things. Listen,
yeah, you got to take any tweet, any Instagram comment from him, just take it with a pinch of salt, please, everyone, because then you got those dodgy rumor pages all over Twitter saying, "Oh, Luton have put in a bid for McKay. I was like, no, they haven't. You're just speculating upon speculation. So just leave it.
And you know what? We keep on saying it about McCurdy. Listen, it'll take a brave club. We've seen him. We love Harry for what he is at Swindon Town Football Club, and Harry comes with certain, with a certain charm that I think there are other managers out there and other clubs out there that would probably find him very, very difficult to, to stomach. I mean, as a prime example, obviously we're talking about a very different era, but Teddy Sheringham was at Nottingham Forest for a season. And lots of people seem to think that's because Teddy Sheringham was there when Brian Clough was there. And there are certain things that Teddy Sheringham represented and did as a modern footballer that Cloughy kind of, didn't necessarily sort of agree with. And whether there's any truth to that or not is by the by. But I think there are certain clubs that, I think they would be taking a very, very, very brave punt. That's not to say there aren't clubs out there that wouldn't suit him like a glove. But I think at this time, I think Harry, after the season he had last year, he owes it to himself to follow that up with another barnstorming season. If he has another season where he hits 20 goals, then he very much is in the shop window, Max, isn't he? Regardless of any off-field antics.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can have all the off-field antics and being a bit of a troublemaker or a personality off the pitch you want, but if you're banging in 20 goals in a professional football league, then you're going to kick on in your career, aren't you? And he's still, what is he, 24, 25? So it's not like he can't make a move at the leagues.
Yeah, and let's call it as it is as well. Because if you're a championship club and you're looking at spending, I don't know, 800. 7, 5, anywhere 5, 6, 7, 800,000 pounds on a lad that scored 40 goals, let's say, in 2 seasons. That's not big beer these days. If you're a championship club, that's the sort of sum of money that you probably have to spend to prize him away from us. And that's the kind of sum of money that, actually, it's gone are the days where that is a crippling amount of money for a decent championship club. So, but like I said, we're not at that pitch yet. But for anyone that did see those tweets and get the wrong end of the stick, take a deep breath and reimagine them, because he genuinely wasn't angling for a move there to Luton. Now, another lad we talked about him quite a lot on the show tonight. Certainly earlier in the Q&As with Clem and Rob, is Tyrese Simpson. So I missed it, but I was reliably informed that Tyrese tweeted that he hasn't seen a football pitch since April earlier this week. And then it was deleted a few minutes after posting it. What did you make of that, Max?
Oh, I think I spoke last week. I spoke quite strongly on my thoughts on Ipswich Town last week. I won't repeat myself, but it's just a young lad who wants to play football and he's not being allowed to do it. And it's just a shame, isn't it?
Yeah. It's gutting for him. You hear the great and the good of our football club talking about him as a character. I always like, I don't want to stereotype, but I'm going to. I always like to hear Aussies talking about other people's personalities, because you tend to find the stereotype with Aussies is very black and white. He's a good guy or he's a messer. And Clem immediately came out and said, he's a great kid. He is a great kid. Having met Tyrese personally last season on a number of occasions, I found him a very, very charming lad. Really keen and eager to do well. Mature beyond his years and physically just absolutely imposing, as you can see from on the pitch, but fundamentally a really, really, really good kid. So for a lad that has got all those attributes to not be somewhere, whether that's at Swindon Town or somewhere else, but somewhere just banging in goals with that big smile on his face, that for me is a travesty. I am hoping and praying that something's going to get done and we're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Because I'm going to say this to you, Max, right? Imagine what our forward line looks like in 2 years' time when Oscar Massey's grown up a bit and Tyrese Simpson's grown up even more. And imagine having those two playing up front alongside each other. That is a frightening prospect, regardless of what league you're in. Yeah,
I'd love to see something like that. I mean, Simpson's he's one of those where it's a big punt, but it's one I would take.
100%. I mean, listen, it's difficult because it's not my money clearly, but Clem's financial commitment to Swindon Town has been significant. For me, it feels like good business to spend 200 grand on a player of Tyrese Simpson's ilk, pin him down to a 3-year contract with a healthy sell-on clause. I just can't see you losing money on that kind of deal. He would come straight back into Swindon. Yeah, he wouldn't be the finished article, but he knows he's loved here. He'll have patience here. He'll find his feet again. He'll score goals. And he would, because he's got all the characteristics, he will fly up the leagues. And I'm sure Ipswich would end up getting more money than they will just seeing him run down his contract and leave on a free at the end of the year, and have to try and rebuild his career. But whichever way, I think both you and I, Max, are of the same opinion, right? We want to see Tyrese back at Swindon Town. Sadly, he's not going to be wearing the number 9 shirt unless Tommy Adeloy relinquishes it. But come home, Tyrese. Come home, and Ipswich let him go. Fair to say. Now, Max, a departure from Swindon this week. He's already kind of departed already, but we officially saying goodbye to Rob Hunt. He's been a brilliant servant for us, hasn't he? But he signed a 2-year deal to join Richie Wellens at Orient.
Yeah, this one hurts. Mr. 7 out of 10 every single game. Just a proper, consistent player, solid fullback, both defensively and not too bad going forward either. I think again, wherever he did end up, he'd be a great signing for anyone. And linking back up with Wellens, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
He's going to be brilliant for Orient, isn't he? You and I both know it will just be such a seamless move for him. Closer, back into London. I understand that's going to be better for Rob in terms of being close to family and friends. I'm sure that Richie's looked after him on the financial side. And yeah, cracking club. Richie knows what to do to get the best out of Rob Hunt. I think, yeah, I'm sort of sad, but at the same time, kind of not really, because whenever we played 3 at the back, Rob never really convinced me as a wing back. Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever a wing back, was he? He was. If you're playing a back 4, he's perfect on the right or the left, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, as a wing back, he's solid enough. But I think we've got better players if they're going to play a more attacking wing back role. So it's a sad loss, but it's one I can deal with. I hope he gets a good reception when he comes back to the county ground as well. Whenever we play Leighton Orient,
I'm sure.
Come down for that one.
Yeah. I'm sure he will, and I'll just remind everybody, of course, not that anyone needs any reminding, but Rob Hunt was one of the players that obviously last summer hung around when he could have walked. And I think, there's a whole gaggle of them, Lydon, Jojo, Matt Bowdery, I could keep going and going and going, but he's certainly one of that wonderful group of lads that sort of, helped keep the club, gave it some sort of semblance of respectability, and gave the club at least a degree of a core. So it goes with all of our best wishes, Rob, and we just hope that you behave yourself when we play you later in the season, and you don't come back and haunt us. But a few old boys are a bit on the move, Max. A few old boys. So we'll just rattle through these. It's a bit of fun more than anything. But Jordan Turnbull has left Salford, and he's popped up at Tranmere again on a 2-year deal. I'll always remember Jordan Turnbull as a centre half that never really seemed comfortable heading the ball. Am I being harsh?
No, yeah, it was because he always played next to Stevens, didn't he? Who was a lot more physically imposing. But I always thought Turnbull was just do you know what was perfect about him? He was never injured. I think he played 46 games both seasons he was with us. So he's a decent League 2 centre back again. I think it's a good signing for Tranmere. I don't know how old he must be. I need to look up how old he is.
I think he's only about 26, 27, But he got a lot of stick.
He must be older than that. He's only 27.
Yeah, I believe so. He got a lot of stick, didn't he, at the Salford game when they came and turned us over at the county ground last season, and walked off the pitch with a bit of a wry grin on his face, but still at the same time was engaged with all the Swindon fans outside the ground. It was all sort of pretty good natured, despite the fact that we all had a massive sulk on. But we wish obviously Jordan all the best up at Tranmere. And now the next one's a fascinating one. It always will be for me, because had just one of the greatest debuts I've ever seen in a Swindon Town shirt, and then it all went downhill from there for him. Dominic Thompson has left Brentford and signed permanently on an undisclosed deal to Blackpool. Dominic Thompson, we'll never forget that debut. Was it 3 assists, Max? He was on fire, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then he got Sheridan.
He did well and truly, Sheridan.
I can't stand Blackpool. I really don't like Blackpool. So good luck to him.
Yeah.
You can tell there's a very good player there, and he'll be decent at the championship level, won't he?
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. And now another player. Now this wasn't a player that ever signed a contract for Swindon, but I've always had a soft spot for this next player. He's just left Colchester and gone to Livingston, and that was Shamal George. Obviously, he picked up a red card against us last season, but enjoyed some banter at the county ground in our home game against them. But Shamal George obviously came to us on trial from Liverpool. There was a lot of chat that he was going to sign for us permanently. It didn't quite happen, and there was a lot of debate about his agent, whether or not he'd been looked after properly by the club, or whether people had backtracked on offers of contracts and so forth. But Shamal George, nice kid, good goalkeeper as well at our level, Max, isn't he? And that's a cracking move for him going up to Livingston.
Yeah, well, it's just you go from the fourth division to a top division. I haven't seen him too many times, but I mean, he played. He was their starting goalie all through last season, so he's got something good about him. Fair play to him. It was one of those. Was that the summer that we ended up with Kovar instead?
Yes, I believe it was.
Yeah, so it's one of those what could have been, but he'll be a decent deal up for him in Scotland. I'm sure he'll do decently up there, and he's still quite young, 23, 24 as he must be.
Yeah. Well, a player that I do think he actually looks a bit younger than he actually is our next former loanee. So Grant Hall, another centre back that never really seemed comfortable heading a ball, has just gone from he's joined Rotherham on a season-long loan from Middlesbrough. So he's a little bit of a nondescript one for me, wasn't he, Grant Hall? He's one of those gaggler players that we picked up from Tottenham that you could tell was a million miles away from their first team. Was never going to be in the picture, but he's kind of done all right post Swindon. I mean, he had a good spell at QPR. He's ended up getting himself to Borough. He's played quite a few games for them up there, but somehow he's found himself at the New York Stadium. Anything to add on Grant Hall?
I remember every time QPR were on telly, I thought that can't be the same player that played with us, because I just remember him being just bang average. Considering, I think, especially considering the other players we'd had from Tottenham at the time. I think we had Luongo and Alex Pritchard at the same time, and he was just maybe they made him look worse than he was. But 13-14 was a bit of a transitional season, wasn't it? So
it was. I was never. I'm just gonna be honest. I'd put it out there. I was never a fan of Grant Hall. Never a fan of Grant Hall. But and last but not least, a little bit of news that broke today. It was confirmed that our 6th consecutive year, Max, we've signed a charity. Our charity of the club's choice is the Wiltshire Air Ambulance. So that's a decent old charity for us to be signing up with long term, Max. Obviously, given where you live, you won't have much contact with Wiltshire Air Ambulance, and certainly living over where I do on the London-Kent border, I don't either. But what I will say is that I have previously, professionally and personally, had quite a lot of contact with the London Air Ambulance, and the service that they provide. I think it's every time they go up in the air, it's a frightening amount of money. I think someone told me it's something like, is it $2,000 or $20,000? I know there's a big difference between those two numbers, but both those sums of money scare me. That every time they take to the air, that's the kind of that's the sort of cost that you've got here. But what a wonderful, wonderful charity. I mean, I've played on football pitches where guys have had broken legs in quite remote areas, and they've been able to bring a helicopter just over, get these guys picked up, airlifted off to hospital. I've as I say previously, professionally, dealt with some pretty awful traumas, and whenever you see the ambulances sort of the air ambulances popping out of the sky, there's always a kind of collective sigh of relief. They're a wonderful service. So Lewis Ward was there, resplendent in all the air ambulance get up, and we salute our club for certainly selecting a wonderful charity. So well done all. Max, anything to add about Wiltshire Air Ambulance?
Yeah, I know that my dad has had to move on with Wiltshire Air Ambulance before, so it's one that's quite close to me. The up where I am, it's the Northwest Air Ambulance, who used to land down at a park that I used to go walk on quite frequently. I had chats with the people there, and I remember asking them, and they said that they had. I think it's something like $2.5 grand per incident that they respond to. So
yeah,
it's good to see money going to something like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, listen, obviously very, very exciting stuff for us, Max, to contemplate. We're only a couple of days away from the big kickoff. We're all pumped. Club seems to be in a good spot. We've got brilliant depth amongst the squad. Strangely, I'm feeling really, really excited about our squad. And it's not this feeling of blind faith. And I don't know whether that's because I've gone and seen a couple of pre-season games and seen the patterns of play and whatnot. I really don't know. But I'm going into this season with a real kind of sense that there's something really interesting is going to happen this year. Something really, really interesting is going to happen. So, regrettably,
it's very intriguing, isn't it? It's very intriguing this season. I think there's a lot of names there. I'm just looking forward to Saturday. I'll be there in Harrogate on Saturday.
Go on the boy.
I believe the train's just about suiting me to get over there, so I should be all right. And Harrogate's a good away day. Good way to start the season. Hopefully the weather holds up.
Bring it home for us, Springer. That's all I'm going to say. Bring it home for us. I'll be listening into the dulcet tones of Andrew Hawes and our good friends at BBC Radio Swindon, BBC Radio Wiltshire. So fingers crossed it all goes seamless for those guys. I think, regrettably, there'll be no match day service from the Tom Broadbent Lounge at the moment on Saturday because we're away and. The following week, however, against Salford, we will be back in the Legends Lounge. We made our debut, if you will, our pre and post match, and we did alternative commentary for you guys as well for the Cardiff game. But we're not going to be putting that service on for away games this season. Certainly not at the moment. We might reevaluate that a little bit further down the line. But we will be back for Salford pre and post match. It was lovely. So many people came over and said hello to us in the Legends Lounge, put faces to Twitter bios and things like that, and voices to names. So hopefully we'll have plenty more of that moving forward. And hopefully it's something that if you listened in, you all enjoyed. But Max, thank you ever so much for joining me tonight, mate. It's been an absolute treat having you on.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers for having me. It's nice talking about the town.
Yes, isn't it always?
Always
well,
is.
All that leaves me to state is obviously Swindon. The Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge is an independent Swindon Town fan Twitter space. The views do not reflect those of Swindon Town Football Club or Sir Tom Broadbent himself. It's a Twitter space that's run by fans for the fans. Go and buy your Hummel football shirts, guys, before they're all sold out. I want to see all of you lot in the Town End wearing them pretty soon. You can go to the Town End Tailor to get those sorted. But in the meantime, that is me over and out. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for giving us your ears for such a long period of time. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Look forward to catching up with you all on Twitter or in some way, shape or form between now and Salford. Take good care of yourselves.